I am Roland Carter, Professor Emeritus of Music at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. I retired in 1913. So now I'm in beginning my 8th year, next year of retirement from teaching, which is what I do. I am a teacher first. I compose, I arrange, but teaching is my most important effort, I think. Yeah. So I prefer the reference to, I really don't consider myself a composer, although I write music. Composers, I don't make a living composing, okay? So, and I'm not one of those who get up every morning and have to write something. I am an inspiration writer. I have to have a purpose, and something has to speak with me, to me, about what I'm doing. So that's the most important part. And I don't find much of a difference in composing and arranging, because a composer simply creates his own tune or theme and arranges it. So I just take other people, or actually traditional things for the most part, and set them in different ways. So, but it's all about writing music and creating sounds and relating to text.
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
You have arranged an orchestration of Lift Every Voice and Sing that it's very frequently performed by orchestras. It's a piece that the Nashville Symphony plays every year as part of its Let Freedom Sing celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But we're going to come back around to that. And so I'd love for you to take a minute and talk a little bit about your teaching practice and how you see kind of what you seek to instill in the students that you're teaching.
I adopted the motto of my undergraduate alma mater, which was an HBCU, Hampton, then Hampton Institute, now Hampton University. And that motto was education for life. So I had a teacher who asked me once, what did I teach? And I responded that I teach music. And she said to me, no, you teach students. So that important aspect and my feeling about education for life, I use music, as music has been so much, is indeed life itself, an expression of life itself. I teach music as a means of life, developing life skills. So it's not just about notes on a page, it's about discipline. It's about applying those techniques to real life. So that has been my philosophy in terms of teaching. And I guess I'll go perhaps too far with this, but my thing about, even as a choral director, and about teaching songs or music to a wide range of people, the idea is that anybody can sing the notes or learn the notes. But replaying or singing the notes is not necessarily making music. The music has to come off the page. And that's one of the things that I stress most. It has to have a real deep, profound meaning for the singers and for those who perform the music.
You know, if we think about um, music as being an expression of the Black experience in America, what kinds of themes and kind of lessons kind of emerge when you think about the scope of that history? What kinds of things resonate to you as you think about this tradition, and what do you most hope that people can kind of identify with in this tradition?
Well, first, I suppose my main concern with that of African American music traditions and music performance is that people develop an appreciation for what it is, not just the problem is that throughout life, once we give something a title or a category, we say African American. Unfortunately, it becomes for African Americans and not for everyone. Okay? I hope you understand what I'm saying in that regard. It limits the exposure of where it goes. People are afraid to touch it because it says African American. Well, I can't do Black music or African American music. You can do it. My important lesson to people or musicians all over the world is that what you want to do is use your best musicality, your best knowledge of music to perform this music. It uses the notes and rhythms. There are some stylistic things we must consider, but when we write it down, do it as it's written. And that's what does not happen, or there's not the respect for that in many camps. Let me say that. It's amazing. Once a person starts singing a spiritual in mixed company, often it becomes the spiritual become foot stomping and hand clapping. And that's not what it's about. That's only one part of it. We don't stomp our feet and clap our hands for every spiritual in the world. And I bring you to Lift Every Voice and Sing with this. They've been singing these words forever, but they don't know what they mean. I mean, honestly. And people, and I'm talking about everybody. They know the words, they can recite the words, they can do, but look into the meaning and from whence it came. And that's a whole, and people, and my setting of this song is 50 years old this year.
Wow.
And it came, yeah, but I mean, people are singing, and the song has come to be placed in all church denomination hymn books and all it is. But you know, when you sing it once or twice a year, and you get to look at the words, and not everybody will embrace and sing it, so you don't know. I mean, that it's the strong song of hope and of history and about where we're going. There are three distinct verses there.
So I'm thinking about the ways in which, you know, music and the utterance of language in that context, can it have value if the meaning is somehow, you know, if the meaning is not immediately grasped by the person singing or speaking the words, is there still value in the recitation of those things?
The feelings that people have about one another are not separated necessarily by Black or white. These feelings we have for each other, even within the same race, within the same family, are reflected in what we do to those outside our family and outside our race. Mm-hmm. It's not just bad people are just bad people.
Yep.
And I think we overlook that or don't look at that in the process, in this whole thing of social justice. I mean, they're just people who are not going to embrace this. As I said, for 400 years now, we've been doing this.
Yeah.
But it does not happen. And more recently, I mean, you can go back to 1930, in the 30s, when, what's her name, Lady Day sang Strange Fruit or something. Yeah. And from then on, I mean, it's the jazz world that probably has had much more of an impact. The jazz and blues traditions have impacted racial and social justice more than any other form of music.
Well, so let's go back to this text that now carries a kind of, I mean, I will say it carries a very particular kind of a weight. Lift every voice and sing, because of what you just described, this kind of reckoning with history and a look forward. What drew you to this text to make an arrangement in the first place, and what did you seek to kind of create with this arrangement?
Well, honestly, I started out in 1970. During this setting, not, wow. The idea was to have a piece of music which would end concerts or open concerts. Because in the choral literature, we were doing the Bell Hymn. I mean, we did the Bell Hymn of the Republic, either to open or close a concert. Many choral groups did, you know. So, and doing that and understand that this is around the Black Power, the civil rights, end of the civil rights movement, and the Black Power movement coming in after that. So I was concerned that the song and become an example or a concern, not of Black and white necessarily, but of man's inhumaneness to man. Again, and this is because of the feelings about the Vietnamese War and the things that were happening all over the world. So I wanted to create a setting that not just a Black national anthem, but an anthem that everybody could sing and embrace and support. That was my number one purpose. And do you know, it took me 49 years to get that. Well, not really, but choirs all over the world are doing it and singing it now. But people were singing the song, according to my research, much before that all over the world. I mean, they were singing it in Japan in the 40s, they tell me. You know, so I don't know, but that's what I intended to do with the song in 1970. Now, the song has been part of my life, my whole life. I'm 78 years old this year. And so when I grew up in the 40s as a child with church and with NAACP. So that was very active. And this was, and many people don't know why it's called the Black National Anthem, but it's called that because it was the national hymn of the NAACP. And everybody who was a member would know the song because every meeting they would sing it. So that's where the song, in every church service, you would sing it at some point. And in school, every morning as an elementary school student, we would sing a verse of Lift Every Voice and Sing. So I've known the song all the time, but I was singing it, and again, much as I think people sing it today, I'm not sure I was that concerned about the words at that point. I was just singing it. I'm not sure how much I really understood what it was saying at that point. But then I became a young activist, somewhat of an activist, and was involved in the civil rights movement and things that were happening. Actually, I was told that I shouldn't say this when I was growing up, but I had an opportunity I attended Highlander Folk School when it was on the side of Mount Eagle, which was a civil rights training camp and which had been designated as a communist supported venture. And so I had the pleasure of going there with the president of the youth NAACP from Chattanooga. And there I met Septimus Clark. I even got a chance to shake hands with Eleanor Roosevelt. I mean, this was about 57 or 58, somewhere around there. So, so I was a youngster, 15, 16 years old. So, and little did I know what that would mean to me now in my life. But and out of that, as you probably know, out of that school, out of Highlander came the anthem, "We Shall Overcome." Yeah, it was developed there. But so those are the kind of, and my high school class, because we did not have an HBCU here in Chattanooga. I grew up in Chattanooga, so that's, and we didn't have, so my high school class took on what the college students in Nashville were doing in 1960. So we marched down to Woolworth and Cress's and the Five and Dime and demonstrated and sat at the counter. So that was my senior year in high school. So my high school class was responsible for the sit-ins here in Chattanooga. But back to the song, we would sing it, I mean, even in Boy Scout meetings, or Cub Scout meetings, we did, there were more community singing, I think, as part of the Black community and the meetings, the church, I mean, everything you were part of, you would sing a song, a hymn or a song. And one of those songs was Lift Every Voice and Sing. So that's how it became so important to me and what I was doing.
So if you consider that this song has been a part of your life, all of your life, and that you've had this particular arrangement that you created that's been a part of your life for the past 50 years, is there anything that you kind of take from this piece of music today that maybe you understand in a different way, or?
No, not necessarily, but I have to admit to you that while I created this, it fell into my lap that this song modeled the Battle Hymn of the Republic. 3 verses that are set by Wilhowsky or Ringwald, I borrowed their model to set this song. And with your work, you probably know, and I tell people all the time, you know, composers borrow stuff all the time. So and this, I borrowed the model. I started out, the Wilhowsky arrangement starts with with a big introduction with the trumpet, and I start with a big introduction, and then Wilhowsky will start with the men singing, "Mine Eyes Are Singing." I start with the men singing, And in the piece, and I'm sure you must know that arrangement, the Ballad Hymn of the Republic that's been done. So, and while the men are singing the melody, the women are going, Gloria, Gloria. And while the men are singing, lift every voice, the women are being trumpets, lift every voice and sing. And wow, so I borrowed that and said, it was ironic how the three verses set the same model. In the second verse of the Ballad Hymn of the Republic, there's an ostinato. Truth is marching, truth is marching. So I took and I set an ostinato to the second verse, Stony the Road we try. Sing a song, sing a song. I just copied the style and the form. But most important, we get to the end of the third verse when we sing. There's a wonderful chorale in the Wilhowski, in the beauty of the lilies crying. Ah, boy, did that third verse of James Weldon Johnson's poem, God of our weary years, God, just a wonderful chorale. And then, and that's the song of hope, true to our God, true to our native land, with the big ending there with the Amen. And the Ballad Hymn ends with the big Amen too. So, you know, I borrow, and people actually have heard my arrangement start and have actually referred to the Ballad Hymn of the Republic. Yeah, but no. I was lucky to been able to take that model and set the song that way. It wasn't such, I don't know how creative I was in doing it, but it's been very successful.